Tash Talks is brought to you by Recharge, simplifying growth for consumer brands. Hello and welcome to Triffin's Founder Stories. I'm Tash Courtenay-Smith and my guest today is the fabulous and a good friend of mine, Elissa Corrigan, the founder of Elle Sera. Welcome, Elissa. It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much. Lovely to be here. And it's lovely not to be the podcast host for 1 week. I run my own podcast and it's just nice.
I know, we're in role reversal. We're in role
questions.
reversal.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about your journey, your story, and some of your philosophies around business, how to build a business. I've always admired the way you've built Elle Sera. We need to say to everyone that I pretty much met you right in the very beginning of Elle Sera, didn't I? So when was that? Can you take us back to the origin story and how you started the brand and when it was?
Yeah, I can. So I've got zero kind of experience in running a business. Can I just say that? My background was in journalism. So let's say, do you know what? These days I look at what I did during my journalism days and the whole point of it is storytelling, and you don't even realise at the time, but writing headlines is your hook these days. Your intro is that first 3 seconds of a video, and if you can write a news story, you can definitely translate that over to this new kind of way we consume content.
And in fact, we should say, because something we talk about, both you and I were in a particular form of journalism, which was news and story brokering, where we had to package and pitch stories and place them in national newspapers. And we both knew of each other back then. It's a particularly tough form of journalism, I think, isn't it? But
yeah.
Great training for the work that we now do and you've done with Elle Sera.
Can I just say, my first job doing that, I used to get £850 a month. And you know how tough that is, and also how dangerous it is, and also that everybody hates you, and also
this is mine and this is former reality.
For
everyone hates you.
For everyone, £850 a month, I have to knock on your door, bother you while you're eating your tea. And
normally, while something terrible's happened to you, or you wouldn't be there.
It's just the worst. And I look back now and think the world has changed. I can't imagine anybody doing that at 20, 25.
Because it's
dangerous, and people, like kids are just like wallflowers. But my God, was that a training ground for entrepreneurship? And if you can do that, then you can definitely hold your own in a room of people.
And in fact, we'll come back to it because some of those skills that you learnt back then have directly contributed to the success of Elle Sera today and some of the ways you've achieved cut-through, which is something everybody watching will want to know about. But first of all, when did you start the brand? How and why?
Yeah, so I've always had a particular interest in health, wellness, mainly selfishly. I just want to look great, feel great. Yeah, so if you can monetize you feeling great all the time, brilliant. So I really was interested in that. And I suppose whatever you're truly passionate about, then you make it work, don't you?
Yeah.
So I started a business running health retreats. And it was there that I spotted, even though I was quite young at this time, 29, 30, I spotted this older generation of women who were like 40s, mid-40s, 50s, who were perimenopause and I didn't even know these words at that time, perimenopause and menopausal. But they used to go to these boot camps where they would like lose £9 in a week. I think it was brilliant. And I was just like, it's not brilliant. And there would be guys at these like retreats who would say, you're eating too much and you're not working out enough, you're not doing enough. And I was a bit like, it's also to do with her metabolism is totally different and her hormonal changes are going up and down. But these guys didn't know that. I set up my own retreat where we really educated women on their hormones and how that was impacting them at different stages of life. And actually we spent more time in the classroom than we actually did working out, and movement was a lot different because women's joints and stuff, like they really get inflamed when their estrogen drops. That is not talked about on these boot camps. So we were really cutting edge at that time. Anyway, COVID hit, couldn't run the business. And I thought, how can I support my ladies at home? And it was one message I got off Facebook from one of my customers. And she was like, what can I do for my libido? I was like, I don't know, but let me look into it. Looked into it. And I don't know what even gave me the balls to do this, but I started thinking, like, is there a female Viagra out there? I don't know. But I started looking at all these things, right? I didn't realise I wanted to make a supplement at that time. I was just recommending ingredients to somebody. Said, let me know how you get on. And she was really pleased with it. And then I thought, God, this is a bigger issue than I thought. I don't know. Started looking at what else did he do in lockdown? Started looking at a lot of Google data and stuff like that and realised it was actually a big thing. So I thought, maybe there is something in this. I look back now and I still can't believe I had the balls and tenacity to actually, something that I had no experience in, how to run a business, how to get a customer, like none of that. Like I'd never had any training, didn't know what I was doing. But I just kept putting one foot in front of the other, and I didn't look at the mountain I had to climb. I just looked at the next step in front of me, which was pick a brand name, or, you know, find a website handle that was free, or an Instagram handle, or whatever. It was just, it wasn't thought out. There's no business plan. There still isn't. But and at this time, everybody says, how did you come up with the golden decanter? And I was like, you know what? It was, and I could kiss the journalist who wrote this on the BBC website. But I was like doing some emails, and I saw popped up this news report about, this was in COVID, and obviously there was germs everywhere, and everybody wanted antibacterial everything. And there was an article about copper and brass being antibacterial. And I was like, wow, I didn't realise that. And I thought, that's why they use it on light switches and handles and stuff like that, because it's antibacterial. And they were going to implement it in hospitals. And I was like, oh, didn't know that. So I started looking up brass and copper or antibacterial materials. It can get rid of MRSA on touch. And I thought, wow, okay, maybe if we make the container, the packaging, a refillable, which is good for sustainability, out of these materials, which would be really expensive but cool, then that'll be a really healthy place to put your kind of supplements. Plus copper and brass are minerals that your body actually needs. Having traces of that in your supplements anyway is great. And that's why I came up with that. Again, it was just that one bit of information that I saw that sparked an entire kind of identity for the brand that I hadn't even realised.
And what about the name, Elle Sera? Because it's an unusual name, and I think it's, you know, it's a lovely name.
Sometimes I regret it.
Do you?
Especially when people go, Elle Sera. And I'm like...
And people do say Elle Sera, don't they?
Oh, Christ, yeah. It does my head in, but I'm like, it's Que Sera, Sera. So... how did I come up with the name? I was trying to find something that was, I knew I didn't want anything that would look well in Holland and Barrett. That is not what I'm trying to achieve. Look at the brand, you'll know that's not what I'm trying to achieve. I'm trying to bring this kind of like luxury French, like fashion house vibes to women's health supplements, but back it up with some clout in the fact that the products are scientifically incredible, clean, premium, but also make them look good. Yeah, so the name She Will Be, I typed it in French into Google. And I was like, yeah, Elle Sera, I can see that. Yeah, okay, I'll go for it. And then I found the domain name. It was there. And I was like, okay, let's run with it. So that's what I did. There's no more thought than that. There's no testing or learning or A/B testing of, oh, hi guys, which name do you prefer? It was none of that. It was just like, no, that's what I'm going for.
And when we first met, I think the brand was quite bold and quite, it wasn't the big red lips on the website, and it was quite sensual in many ways, wasn't it? And you've really moved it on since then, but while still keeping some of that vibe of luxury. So how has it evolved over time?
Yeah, so it was very sexually charged as well at one time, which was fine because we really lent into the libido aspect. Don't forget, like, I pitched this as a female Viagra, I picked the ingredients with that in mind. And not only that, we use clinical data to ascertain the dosages as well. Yeah, women should be talking about their sexual health, their hormonal health, and something that we don't talk about, but it's something that they think about, because I could see it from the Google data. So while they might not have been shouting about it, I know internally they do want to feel 21 again. There's nothing better than when you just, pardon my French, sorry Triffin listeners, when you're like 21 and shagging about all the time, that feels good. You want to feel that, you want to reclaim that when you're in your 40s as well. And that's like the sass and the sex, and that's what kind of we wanted to bring to this brand.
Yeah.
Yes, we have moved it on a bit.
But you have lots of customers talking to you about how it's helped them save their marriages,
Absolutely.
Save their sex lives.
Yeah, including really well-known ones.
Yeah. So that line, the female Viagra, that was the first bit of breakthrough media you got, wasn't it? Which I think, did that come from the background of journalism in terms of how you're going to take this product to market, and you end up with a big story on the Daily Mail website?
Yeah, exactly. So it was that headline. Again, that hook. That was it. And again, I didn't know if that's what I was doing, but I thought of that on a drive down to Kent, and I thought, okay, and that's how I was going to spin it around. And I remember launching the product one night, 7 o'clock, 16th of December, 2020. I'll never forget it. Made £1,000 in my first night, and my first customer is Nikki. And then about...
Was that after the Daily Mail article?
No, this was like, I just launched the brand, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to write a news article. So I had an idea, rang my pal up at the Daily Mail. He was like political guy. He was like, this is not for me, but I'll tell you what, let me chuck it over to female, it might be for them. I was like, they're like, have you got any stats and data? And I was like, yeah, we've grown by like 400%. Now, which was true because we were on day 14 now. From day 1 to day 14, we had grown by 400%. So it wasn't like they didn't know how old the company was. And I was like, women are reclaiming their love in lockdown. Like, that's what's happening. We'd seen a boom in sales because women want to, everyone's in lockdown. Everyone was having sex in lockdown. There were so many babies created in lockdown.
Yeah,
There's virtually nothing else to do apart from bake some banana bread and have some wine and get it on. So... It was a great headline, great story for them, etc.
And what impact did it have on the brand?
Phenomenal. And genuinely.
So you were 2 weeks in at this point?
2 weeks in. I had to bring in reinforcements to help me pack orders. And bearing in mind, I started the business with a £50,000 bounce back loan and a tiny bit of money that I won on Bear Grylls. And I did half of it in one day.
Wow.
Recouped half of it in one day, and we broke even in 6 weeks. And then the next person on the phone was Selfridges. Now, people spend their entire frigging lives trying to get into Selfridges. And 3 months later, I was in Selfridges on Oxford Street. And I was like, fucking hell. You know what I mean? You can imagine my delusions of grandeur at this point of thinking, oh my God, I'm a genius. I was born for this. Could you imagine having like that much success, bang, straight off the bat?
Yeah. I don't think I remembered it was all that close together, to be honest.
When I was on the phone to Selfridges, I have no idea what they're talking about, by the way. They're talking acronyms, they're talking margins, they're talking all these words. And I was like, yeah, absolutely winging it. You know what I mean? There was no ChatGPT back then to Google anything or help me. I've got my friend who's an accountant trying to sort out my stock levels and margins. And I was a bit panicking as well because I was like, I didn't know how much stock they wanted. I thought, Christ, I might be out of business straight away here. But anyway, it was really low volumes, which was amazing. But then I had another offer from a big pharmaceutical company. They sell like pharmaceuticals online, the biggest one in the UK. Some outfit down in Nottingham. And I'm on the phone to like the CEO and he's like telling me, yeah, we can shift like 2,000 products a week and we can do this and do that. And I was thinking, I'm only just off the ground here. And there are a lot of people who would have taken that deal and scaled too quick, too fast. I didn't even know who my customer was at that point, and I turned that deal down. But luckily, Selfridges things happened, which again, it was low volume. It didn't really push the needle in terms of sales, but that's not why I did it. It was that legitimized the business very quickly. This wasn't just some Instagram brand anymore. This was something that's I can walk into Selfridges and go and buy it. And then they moved us to the corner, which Louis Vuitton used to be in. And I was like, fucking hell. After about 6 months, they put us on this corner in Selfridges. So not only were we in Selfridges, we're in the best corner you could ever get in Selfridges. So that was amazing. It's all been downhill from there.
No, it hasn't at all what you're talking about. One of the things I've always hugely admired about you is your kind of approach, getting the product to market, and your absolute confidence in what you believe, and your skepticism of all those around you, including me at various points. Your skepticism of agencies is well documented by all agencies that know you. Just talk about how you've built the brand without a reliance on Facebook and Google, though obviously I'm sure you believe they play a role, much as I think you don't want to admit it. Or are you still sceptical?
I'm absolutely still sceptical. You can't build a brand off Facebook. And anybody thinks you can, well done. Do another raise, do another raise, do another raise.
Yeah.
And keep going spending someone else's money. And you think cash flow is a business. It is not. It's not a business. You're just forcing it in front of eyeballs again, and then when you run out of money to do that again, you're just going to go and do another raise. That's not business.
Yeah, and you and I know a lot of brands who do that as
it's mental. Yeah, and they think they're amazing. I'm like, okay, let's have a look at your profit loss account, shall we? But I am skeptical of agencies and I'm skeptical about what they do, especially with the invention and the acceleration of AI now.
Particularly across the paid channels. I think that's a very relevant. I think it is. There's a lot of automation in those channels nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's doing a phenomenal job as well. Yeah. So I am skeptical of them. And I think anybody who comes on to me saying, oh, God, we can scale this business. We can hockey stick it, which I've heard 3 times now. If anybody says that, huge red flag. Red flag, because you cannot. The algorithm wouldn't even let you do that unless you're going to spend hockey stick more amount of money.
Yeah.
It's not going to let you do that. It yields you. So what's the difference? There's got to be a different lever to pull. And every time I've had significant growth in the business, it's always been from some external activity that I have done myself. The biggest levers are always traditional PR for us, or amazing organic collaborations with a celebrity or anything like that. But have I ever seen a hockey stick approach to any of the growth in the business through paid media? Never, never. And it doesn't matter. It's incremental at best. Never seen anything. Otherwise, I wouldn't have this skepticism with agencies. And then every agency says, you've got the wrong agency. Why don't you use us? Ultimately, you end up using them. And again, they fall by the wayside. And I'm not backwards in telling them. If I'm dead sound with everybody, and even if the relationship is over, I am never burn my bridges. Yeah. I'm really cool with everybody. And I'm just like, guys, it's just not working. Time to go in any direction. But I know what pulls the levers. I know myself as a consumer. And it's getting so saturated because it's so easy to start a brand now. And everyone thinks, oh, I can do it. And I can just outspend. And I'll do a raise to start the business. And we're going to do things slightly different in a bit of different packaging, but whatever. Yeah. But for me, I'm a very demanding woman in all aspects of my life. Never mind kind of my own business. I myself am very demanding of the products that I use and the products I put out, which is why I'm very careful and everything is considered. Nothing is like winging it. I want to go to the best of the best all the time. I want to get the best advice. Who's the best in the world that can do this and give them the advice? And then really, I think consumers trust me because I only want the best for myself. This is a product I want to take for myself. That's important to me too. I'm not putting crap in a bag and selling it. Again, I know a lot of people who do that and who don't look at things so carefully, who don't look at the packaging so carefully, who don't see an article on BBC News and wonder about the material of brass and how it's antibacterial and make a whole product about that. I can't see many other brands taking that much careful consideration.
And what about, because I know you did a lot through your community and one-to-one messaging, and during various conversations we've had, you've said things like, look, I can sell as much product through DMs and one-to-one messaging as, say, any agency who's running Facebook ads for me.
That is 100% true, and I still stand by that today. And on the train, I was chatting to a customer and I literally don't take anything until you okay it. And by the way, that's everything. If her child wanted a product or her husband, she messaged me last night. She's called Sally Ann. She was messaging me and she was like, my husband wants to take this and this, but I listen to you and I respect what you say. So I was like, okay, let me sift through. First of all, and then I'll sit with her back and forth. Why does he want to take it? What's he trying to use it for? And let's find you a good solution for it and explain how much he should be having or whatever. They really respect that and they'll come back to you. Now, let's say you're doing, 50 sales a day or whatever you might be doing. Could you have a better experience you could make 50 or even 30, 40 sales a day in your DMs by just talking to the customer. And I tell you what, that customer that you spoke to in the DMs will have a double, triple the amount of lifetime value.
Yeah.
Than some cold calling.
And why don't other brands do that? Because you talk about it and
because they say you can't scale. They say you can't scale by giving a personal touch. That's what they say, because it's hard, because it requires my time, requires my intelligence, it requires me researching things, but I'm truly passionate about it, you know what I mean? And I always up front, I'm like, if I don't know the answer to this question, I'm going to go and find out someone who does. Yeah. And I have a incredible phone book of people who I really respect and trust. The best we run a podcast and we get the best of the best experts on. So I have access to the best people, and I feel like when you invest in our product, you're not just investing in the product for yourself, but you've got unlimited resources there. I feel that's something we don't actually talk about enough, because you drop me as a message at any time and I'll go to the ends of the earth to try and find the answer.
Amazing.
It is amazing, but people don't do it because you can't scale it.
Yeah. So what about your approach of profit first? You went into profit fast because of the original article in the Daily Mail, and you've sustained that ever since, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you and I are around a lot of brands that are scaling fast with no profit but a lot of investment, and we always have this conversation, don't we, about profit first.
It's true, you know what I mean? I look at the figures, I look at the cash flow, and I take the profit out first. Whatever you've got left at the end of the month, that is what you run the business with. And I always keep 10-15% for absurdity, which is those things that you can't scale but are fun, that could really pull the lever, but you never plan for. You plan for, it's not in your kind of marketing mix every single month.
I love that for absurdity. That's a brilliant idea. So it can be anything.
It can be anything I feel my heart desires. And by the way, I have some incredible things coming up. You know what I mean? incredible things that I've had in my head, and I think, fuck it, there's our absurdity. Sorry swearing. There's my absurdity money. It's going on that, and as we make more profit, they are getting more absurd. For instance, we launched our magnesium product with a music video.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
I was listening in the car to Sam Sparro, Black and Gold, and I was like, gold, green, and we've just launched magnesium, it's green and gold. So we rewrote the song, we shot a music video. That's our absurdity.
Yeah.
That gets engagement, that's funny, that shows a bit of humour, requires still some cash. Not much, it wasn't much at all. I think we probably brought the whole thing in for under 1,500 quid.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Is good. Yeah, but that's because you've got a lean, get it done, newsroom mentality to these things. So let's talk about Triffin and the role Triffin plays in your business as a profit first business.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, again, what is business? What is a business? How do you value your business? First thing, if anyone's coming in to value your business, what they're going to look at? Financials. If anyone's going to come to invest, what they're going to look at? Financials. If anyone's going to buy you, what are they going to look at? Financials. So I knew from day one, don't cook the books and get your financials perfect. That is what Triffin does. Every single day, down to a granular level, you can see my financials. Is that valuable to somebody who's coming in, either as an investor or somebody who might want to buy you one day? Absolutely, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. You've got that log of data that goes back. So the day I took it on, I think that is absolutely incredible. Now, for what you pay for Triffin compared to what you would have to pay for somebody in-house to do that job, to produce those reports every day and then try and work out where you're hemorrhaging cash or what's the trend this week, are you going down? I have a snapshot of, okay, sometimes, God forbid, sometimes I'll be in the car or whatever at the traffic lights and I just see like more greens than reds and I'm like, okay, brilliant. If I see more reds than greens, I'm like on the phone. Do you know what I mean? Immediately. It's
saying
like,
what? Who are you on the phone to? Everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
The agencies.
Everybody, yeah. Everybody's getting it. What's going on? Yeah.
All the brands I work with use Triffin, and I now find it absolutely integral because it's the only way you can have a sensible conversation is if you know what's going on with their numbers. Otherwise, you're just talking about things without really necessarily. You're talking about marketing, but you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, you can't scale a business with guesswork either.
No.
And that is the other thing. So teaches you, it shows me exactly, it's visibility, and visibility is power.
Yeah.
And visibility is scalable, and it gives me clarity. This is not accidental scaling now. This is intentional scaling with some underpinning, financial underpinning, and some real kind of methodology and strategy behind it. Now, I absolutely hate figures. I'll just put that out there. I am really a creative. I'm a storyteller first and foremost in every single way, whether it's visual, media, whatever. But that is actually my skill set, marketing, storytelling. The last thing I want to do is sit there and number crunch all day. So the fact that I have this piece of tech that can now do it for me and I can just look at it in a split second and know the health of the business very quickly is for me personally, that's invaluable. It's absolutely invaluable. It helps lead into what my accountants do. It helps lean into what the marketing team doing. And then I'm like, okay, we know we can push it now. We can push marketing this month if we want to, or we can pull back, or we can see how. It just gives you that clarity. I don't understand why anyone wouldn't want it. I can't understand why anyone wouldn't. Genuinely can't understand that.
I can't understand why they wouldn't want it anyway.
You wouldn't want that.
Yeah, I know.
Because believe me, there will be a time when you rely on it so much that you'll think, how do I ever run a business without it?
So you had an incredible moment recently with Abby Clancy, which again changed the trajectory of the business, didn't it? And that was another publicity moment. Can you share what happened with that?
Yeah, complete, like organic.
And that's what everyone... you didn't even know it was coming, did you?
Didn't even know it was coming. But thankfully, I plan ahead for these because I know these moments can happen. And you're a subscription business, so I always buy huge amounts of stock anyway. We always have a year's worth of stock no matter what, rightly or wrongly. But yeah, so when you get these moments, then you're ready for them. That's forward planning. But that was completely organic. She was sat in Portugal with some of her friends and they were saying, oh my God, you've got to try this golden pill. It's absolutely amazing. She clicked it then and then, became our customer. And then she messaged us and just said, absolutely love your product. Would you come on the podcast? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. And then before that even happened, before I even went on her podcast, she started talking about it on her own podcast with her husband, Peter. And they were talking about what was going on in their lives and why she needed it. And again, completely organically, I was in the Lake District. I didn't even know this was going to happen, but a journalist had picked up on that, wrote a whole piece about it, put it on the Daily Mail online. And I was just like seeing my phone like lighting up constantly with sales. I was like, what's going on? I'm like, no signal in the Lake District. And then I Googled Elle Sera and it was there. And I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And again, literally an incredible moment for the business. But luckily we were ready for it. It was good. It was an amazing summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't thank her enough for that. And again, it happened nicely. And also, we're not paying her to say we didn't pay her a 1 penny to say a word about our product. Again, we've never actually done any influencer marketing. That's another thing that people go, you've never done any influencers. You've never paid anyone to endorse it. If they want to work with us, they want to work with us. And I respect that. And I'm like, fine, we'll send you the products. But whatever you say about our brand is on you. That's up to you. You know what I mean? Because I don't need to force it down anybody and say, this is a good product. And I feel like, again, a lot of people do that. They will get like loads of gym influencers to just, this is me, I'm making my protein shake or my matcha coffee or whatever.
What's the standard method?
Of course it is, but that's lazy and I don't know, whatever. I completely look at a business in a completely different way because I look at it from, I am the consumer and I don't want to be bullshitted. Sorry for swearing again. Sorry.
So before we wrap up, you mentioned your Absurdity fund or whatever you call it. What do you call it? The Absurdity? And you said some interesting, amazing things coming up.
Yeah.
So is it top secret or can you share
top
any of
secret,
it?
yeah. We're just about to sign a contract on some Absurdity that's happening, which will be coming out in October.
What are the sort of the benefit? I love that thinking. When I used to teach kids, I used to say you have a creator fund where you put a bit of your money towards creating something new, which is a similar thing to an Absurdity fund, isn't it?
Well, because if you're all doing this, look at every D2C brand, everyone that uses Triffin. Yeah. Have they got an Absurdity fund? No. Have they got really very pedestrian looking, beautiful brands, beautiful packaging, lovely copy written all over your website, amazing, fantastic. Is that going to get spoken about the next day with all your friends? I pulled a stunt at one of my own ladies' lunches. I didn't even tell Kelly. The only people that knew in the room was the general manager and...
What do you mean pulled a stunt?
And a videographer. So I set up a ladies' lunch. It's going to be a health and wellness talk, a lovely ladies' breakfast. It just so happened to be on Kelly's birthday. And I used my partner's restaurant. So because I was using his restaurant, I could pull this stunt off. So I had met these waiters who were like West End singers and they were amazing. So I embedded them into the staff that day. Anyway, I had the ladies' lunch, blah, 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 and everyone's, having a nice time, all the rest of it. They just thought they were coming for a bit of a health and wellness chat. They ended up leaving thinking, wow, where can we go now? So basically what happened was it's Kelly's birthday, and I said, oh, can everyone join me in singing happy birthday to Kelly? So she comes out, she stood there all bashful and whatever, and the guy comes over with this big cake, and then he dropped it all over the floor. She was like, everyone in the room was like, oh my God, what's happened? Everyone was like, didn't know where to look, awkward, embarrassed. He was like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And he comes over, he grabs the mic off me, he goes, Elissa, I've ruined your event, I'm so sorry. Let me get you a gift. And he turns to Kelly and goes, my gift is my song, yeah. This one's for you. And everyone was like, oh my God. Anyway, everyone was on their tables, on their chairs. This is like midday on a Tuesday. And I'm telling you now, every single person not only will always remember that brand activity, but they will all go and tell 5 of their friends about it. And the experience of having a brand is not what you do in the transaction, but it's the story they're going to tell the friends the next day.
Oh, my God, what a brilliant thing to say. What a fantastic point, because we've reached the end of time. But what great stories. What's your final bit of advice for people watching? Because you've really shown how you're doing things differently.
I hope so, because a lot of D2C brands, they all pull the same levers, they use the same agencies, they do the same things. Yeah. If anything, I've shunned all of that and I do things my own way, rightly or wrongly. And I feel like if it feels good to me, gut and instinct will get you so far. And yeah, I can only say that focused on the profit because, that is what the true business is.
And it gives you an Absurdity fund.
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Elissa. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tash Talks is brought to you by Recharge, simplifying growth for consumer brands.